My friends, my sisters, my brothers, my beloveds, I stand before you today to whisper, to remind, to call out from the marrow of my bones a truth that is older than fear and louder than doubt. You do not have to carry the whole world on your shoulders. Because when the night gets heavy, when the mind grows restless, when worry rattles your spirit, you must learn to stop overthinking and let God handle it. I have lived long enough to tell you this. The mind is a marvelous servant, but oh, it is a terrible master. It will twist and turn, replay, rewind, reimagine until you are trapped in the prison of your own thoughts. But you are not a prisoner. You are a child of God. And a child of God does not live in chains. So hear me when I say stop overthinking, stop rewriting the story in your head, stop fighting battles that belong to the Lord. Now, somebody here today has been worrying about tomorrow's bread, about next month's rent, about what people will say, about whether love will stay, about whether the dream will fade you. And yet, has worry ever fed you? Has overthinking ever healed you? Has doubt ever lifted you higher? No. Worry cannot grow you. Only faith can grow you. Beloved, I say it plain, overthinking is the thief of your joy, but surrender is the birthplace of peace. When you lay it down, when you let go, when you let God, you discover that the one who formed the oceans, who painted the stars, who lifted you from your mother's womb, that same God can carry what your weary hands cannot hold. And let me tell you something, letting go is not weakness. No, child, letting go is courage. Letting go is power. Letting go is trusting that God knows the road better than you know the map. So today, my plea, my call, my song to you is simple. Stop overthinking. Stop replaying. Start living. The mind is a servant, not a master. When you hear these words, they may sound like a gentle proverb, but if you take them into your heart, you will find in them the power to change the way you live. The mind is a tool, a vessel, a companion. It was given to you to guide, to calculate, to remind you of tasks, to help you navigate this journey of life. But oh, how often do we forget this truth and bow down as if the mind were a king upon the throne of our being? When the mind becomes master, you lose your freedom. You begin to obey every thought, every worry, every what if that comes knocking, and soon you find yourself enslaved not by chains of iron, but by chains of imagination. Think of it this way: when you wake in the morning and you are already rehearsing what could go wrong, already imagining the arguments, the failures, the disappointments that may never even happen. You are allowing the servant to take the seat of the master. And when the servant sits on the throne, chaos reigns. Have you ever had a day ruined before it even began? Not because of what happened, but because of what you thought might happen. That is the danger of letting your mind rule unchecked. Now let us take a look at daily life, the small things that build our world. Imagine a student preparing for an exam. She has studied, she has written notes, she has prayed for wisdom. Yet on the night before, her mind keeps whispering, "You will forget everything. You will fail. Others are smarter than you. What if your future ends here?" The mind, instead of being a helper, becomes a tormentor. But the truth is, the student has done her part. The rest belongs to God. The mind should say, "Rest now, child, for you have done well." But if she has not trained her mind to be a servant, it will whip her like a cruel master until she trembles in fear. And yet, if she remembers, "My mind is my servant," she will speak back and say, "Be still. I command you to serve me with peace, not torment. I will rest, for God is in control." Do you see the difference? The same situation, but a different outcome, depending on whether the mind is master or servant. Let us walk into another example: a man providing for his family. He works day and night. He saves what he can. He sacrifices. But then the mind begins to say, what if you lose your job? What if sickness comes? What if the money is never enough? What if you cannot feed your children? These thoughts rob him of peace. They make him bitter, impatient with his wife, harsh with his children, always chasing, never resting. The mind was given to him to help manage his work, to plan wisely, to remember responsibilities. But when the mind becomes master, it drives him like a tyrant, leaving him exhausted and hopeless. If only he could whisper, "You are my servant, not my master. I will not let you rule me. I have done my best, and the rest is in God's hands." Then he could come home with peace, hold his children with joy, speak kindness to his wife. He would still work hard, but he would not be destroyed by worry. The mind is like fire. Fire in the kitchen cooks your food. Fire in the hearth warms your home, but fire running wild can burn the house down. The mind, when placed in its rightful place as a servant, lights the way. But when left uncontrolled as master, it consumes everything. This is why you must learn the discipline of speaking to your own thoughts. When your mind says, "You are not enough," answer back, "You are my servant, not my master. You serve me with thoughts of truth, not lies." When your mind says, "Tomorrow will destroy you," answer back, "My tomorrow belongs to God, not to you." When your mind says, "You must control everything," Answer back, I release what is not mine to hold. In that moment, you are reminding yourself the mind is a tool, not the ruler. Think of a driver in a car. The car is powerful, built with wheels, gears, and an engine that can take you far. But what happens if the car decides where to go without the driver? Disaster. The car was built to serve the driver, not to lead. In the same way, your mind is a magnificent engine, but you are the driver and God is the guide. When you hand the wheel to your thoughts, you will end up lost, broken, or crashed. But when you keep the wheel in its place and let God set the direction, your mind will carry you safely to the destination. This is not easy work, I know, because the mind is restless, quick to wander, quick to worry. But you must practice. You must pause and remember daily. My mind is not my master. Say it when you wake. Say it when fear rises. Say it when doubt circles your heart. Teach your thoughts to serve, not rule, for a servant must obey its master. And you, my dear, are not a slave of your mind. You are a child of the Almighty. So let the mind serve you with clarity, with creativity, with focus, with memory, but not let it whip you with fear. Let it remind you your duties, but do not let it dictate your destiny. For your destiny belongs to God alone. And when you begin to live with this truth, when you remind yourself that the mind is your servant, not your master, you will walk lighter. You will smile more often. You will trust more deeply. You will sleep more peacefully. And you will discover that life is not meant to be lived under the heavy hand of thoughts, but under the gentle hand of faith. Because the mind is a servant, but God is the master. Overthinking steals joy. When you hear those words, do not take them lightly, for they are not just a phrase, they are a mirror. They reflect what happens to so many of us each day. Joy, that delicate treasure, that shining pearl, that laughter which comes so naturally to a child, is stolen not by a thief in the night, but by the quiet whisper of our own minds. We often imagine that enemies outside can harm us most, but truthfully, it is often our own overthinking that robs us of the simple, beautiful moments of life. Picture this. You are sitting at the table with your family, the food is warm, the voices are kind, there is laughter in the air. For a moment you are surrounded by joy. Yet suddenly, the mind begins to wander. What will happen tomorrow? What if the money runs out? What if something bad is waiting just around the corner? In that instant, your heart leaves the table though your body remains. You are no longer with your loved ones. You are trapped in a theater of fear that plays only in your mind. The meal is the same, the laughter is still present, but your joy has been stolen, not by circumstance, but by overthinking. Think of the young woman who falls in love. Her heart blossoms, she feels cherished, she feels alive. But then her mind begins to question. What if he leaves? What if he finds someone better? What if this happiness is only temporary? And slowly, instead of enjoying the sweetness of love, she pulls into her own days with fear of losing it. The joy of love was hers, right there in her hands, but overthinking snatched it away before she could taste it fully. Or consider the young man who has been given an opportunity, a new job, a chance to step into something greater. At first he is excited, grateful, eager, but his mind begins to say, what if I fail? What if I am not good enough? What if people laugh at me? And so instead of walking into the room with courage and joy, he walks in trembling, second-guessing, hiding his own light. He has not failed yet. But the joy of new beginnings has already been stolen by overthinking. Joy is delicate. It does not demand a stage. It does not scream for attention. Joy shows up quietly, like morning sunlight through the curtains, like the first sip of water after thirst. It is in small things, the hug of a child, the sound of birds, the rhythm of your own heartbeat reminding you that you are alive. But overthinking is a storm. It rushes in heavy and loud, drowning out the quiet song of joy. And unless you guard your heart, unless you learn to still your mind, you will miss the very gifts life has placed before you. Tell me, and so on. How many times have you been in the middle of a moment that should have been joyful, but you could not receive it because your thoughts were somewhere else? You may have been on a walk with a friend, but instead of listening, you were replaying a conversation from yesterday, asking, did I say the wrong thing? Did I look foolish? You may have been at a celebration, but your thoughts whispered, how long will this last? What if tomorrow is not as good? And in that way, joy is stolen from your hands even as it tries to embrace you. You must learn that joy is a present moment gift, while overthinking is always tied to past regrets or future fears. They cannot exist in the same space. When your mind is lost in overthinking, it closes the door to joy. But when you release the worry, when you step fully into now, joy walks back into the room. Look at children, how easily they laugh, how freely they play. They do not sit and wonder if tomorrow will bring disappointment. They do not overthink whether their laughter sounds right. They simply live. And because they live in the moment, joy flows naturally. That is why Christ himself once said that unless we become like little children, we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Because the kingdom of heaven is a place of trust, of peace, of joy. And overthinking cannot live there. Think of the mother who holds her newborn. In that moment, her heart is overwhelmed with joy. What if her mind interrupts with fear? What if I cannot provide? What if sickness comes? What if something happens? Then even the miracle of life in her arms cannot be fully savored. Overthinking steals what God has so freely given. So I say to you, guard your joy. Protect it the way you would protect your most precious treasure. When thoughts rise up like thieves at the gate, whispering, "What if?" you must say firmly, "Not today. I will not let my joy be stolen. I will not let fear rob me of the moment God has placed in my hands." And let us not pretend this is easy. It takes practice. It takes awareness. It takes pausing in the middle of worry to breathe and say, right now I am safe. Right now I am blessed. Right now I have reason to rejoice. For joy is not hidden in some distant future. It is available here and now, but you cannot taste it while chewing on fear. When you release overthinking, you open your hands to receive joy. You notice the smile of a stranger, the beauty of the sky, the kindness of a word, the warmth of belonging. You begin to live as if each day is a gift, and indeed it is. But when you clutch tightly to worry, when you play the endless movie of what if in your mind, joy slips through your fingers like sand. So, my beloved, remember this joy is your birthright. It is the melody of your soul. But it will not fight with overthinking. You must choose. And when you choose joy over fear, when you silence the thief at the gate, you will find yourself living lighter, smiling brighter, walking taller. For joy is not lost. It has only been waiting for you to open the door and invite it back in. God's hands are stronger than your fears. Let that sink into your bones, into the very chambers of your heart. You see, fear is loud, it is heavy, it is convincing. Fear will shout at you in the night. Fear will tap you on the shoulder in the morning. Fear will walk beside you through the day as though it belongs there. But fear is not greater than God. Fear is a shadow, but God is the light. Fear trembles, but God stands unshaken. Fear binds, but God breaks chains. When you understand that God's hands are stronger than your fears, you begin to walk differently. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to live differently. Every one of us has known fear. Fear of losing a loved one, fear of failing at our work, fear of stepping into the unknown, fear of being judged, fear of being left behind. Fear comes in so many disguises, yet its mission is the same: to paralyze, to shrink, to keep you from living fully. But picture this: a child walking beside their father, small fingers tucked into the strong hand of the parent. The child may see the dark, may hear the thunder, may feel the wind, but as long as their hand is in the Father's hand, the fear does not win. That is what it means to rest in God's hands. You may still see the storm, but you know who is holding you. Think of a woman who stands at the edge of a new beginning. Maybe she has to move to another city, start over, rebuild from nothing. Fear whispers, what if you cannot make it? What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? And if she listens only to fear, she will stay frozen, never stepping into what could be her blessing. But if she remembers that God's hands are stronger than her fears, she will step forward. She will whisper, "I do not walk alone, I am carried." And with each step, she discovers that doors open, people appear, strength rises, not from her own might, but from the hands of the Almighty guiding her way. Now picture a man who is sick. He lies awake at night, worried about his health, worried about his future. Fear keeps saying, "This is the end, there is no hope, you will not make it." But if he dares to believe, even in the trembling of his weakness, that God's hands are stronger than his fear, then something shifts. He may not have the cure in his pocket, but he has faith in his spirit. He may not see the way forward, but he knows the one who holds tomorrow. Fear says, "You are finished," but God says, "You are in my hands." And what greater safety can there be? Every day, countless people are robbed of peace, not because their problems are bigger than God, but because their fears are louder than their faith. But beloved, the loudness of fear does not mean it is stronger. A barking dog may sound fierce, but if it is chained, it cannot touch you. Fear is like that, it makes noise, but God has it on a chain. When you stay in his hands, fear cannot harm you. Let me give you another picture. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean. The waves rise tall. The water crashes, the sound is deafening. That is fear, loud, overwhelming, threatening. But then imagine that behind you stands the one who made the ocean, the one who told the waves where to stop, the one who placed the stars above its surface. His hands are the ones that sculpted the universe. How could your fears, no matter how large they seem, ever be stronger than his hands? And yet so often we forget. We clutch our fears tightly, as if they are greater than God. We rehearse them in our minds, we magnify them until they tower over us. But if you would only place those fears into the hands of God, you would see them shrink. You would see them lose their power. You would realize they were never as big as they appeared. Think of the times in your own life when you were certain you could not survive, but you did. Think of the nights you thought you would break, but you rose in the morning. Think of the doors you thought were shut forever, but they opened. At the time, fear told you, this is the end. But God's hands were already at work, carrying you through. That alone is proof his hands are stronger than your fears. A bird sitting on a tree branch is not afraid of the branch breaking because its trust is not in the branch. It is in its wings. In the same way, you do not place your trust in circumstances, in people, and plans. You place it in God's hands. Because his hands will never break beneath you. His hands will never let you fall without lifting you again. His hands hold the universe together, yet they are gentle enough to wipe your tears. Strong enough to part seas, yet tender enough to calm your trembling heart. So the next time fear creeps in, do not wrestle with it alone. Do not try to fight it with your own fragile strength. Instead, remind yourself, this fear is not stronger than God. This problem is not bigger than his power. I'm not alone, for I rest in his hands. Say it until your heart believes it. Whisper it in the night, speak it in the morning, declare it in the storm. For when you truly believe that God's hands are stronger than your fears, you stop shrinking and you start rising. You stop trembling and you start walking. You stop being defined by your fear and you start being defined by your faith. And that, my dear, is when you will know freedom. That is when you will know peace. That is when you will know that no matter the storm, no matter the shadow, no matter the fear, God's hands are stronger and you are safe within them. Faith builds, worry destroys. These words are not simply ideas. They are truths carved deep into the foundation of human life. Faith is like a seed planted in the soil. It grows roots. It stretches toward the sun. It produces fruit in its season. Worry, on the other hand, is like weeds in the garden. It chokes, it strangles, it drains the life out of what is good. You cannot serve both faith and worry, for one will build you up and the other will tear you down. Think about a house being built. Every brick laid is an act of faith. The builder places the brick with trust that it will hold, that the foundation will be strong, that the walls will rise. The work may take time, the weather may be harsh, but the builder keeps going because he believes the house will stand. That is faith. It builds one step at a time. Now imagine if the builder spent all his time worrying. What if the wall falls? What if the cement is weak? What if the roof collapses? If he listens to worry, he will never lift a single brick. The house will never be built. Worry destroys before life even begins. Look at your own life. Every dream you have ever pursued was built on faith. The moment you applied for a job, you acted in faith that you were worthy of the opportunity. The moment you fell in love, you acted in faith that your heart could be cherished. The moment you tried something new, you acted in faith that growth was possible. Without faith, nothing moves forward but worry. Worry whispers, don't even try, don't risk it, don't step out. And so many lives have been left half built because worry took the place of faith. Let us see this in daily life. A young woman desires to start a business. She has ideas, she has passion, she has skills. Faith tells her, begin. Trust that your gift will make room for you. But worry comes creeping, saying, what if you lose money? What if no one supports you? What if you fail and everyone laughs? If she listens to worry, the dream never leaves her notebook. But if she listens to faith, she takes one small step at a time. Slowly, what was once an idea becomes a living reality. Faith builds, worry destroys. Think of a parent raising a child. Faith says, this child will grow strong, will find their way, will be guided by God. Faith encourages the parent to nurture, to teach, to love with patience. But worry says, what if my child makes mistakes? What if the world harms them? What if I am not enough? And in that worry, the parent becomes overbearing, fearful, controlling, or even absent. The child feels the weight of worry rather than the strength of faith. Yet, when faith leads, even in mistakes, there is hope, there is strength, there is a steady building of character. Faith builds, worry destroys. Even in the smallest things, you see this truth. Imagine two people waiting for the same result, perhaps a medical report. The one filled with worry cannot sleep, cannot eat, imagines the worst at every turn. By the time the report comes, their body is already weak from fear. The other, filled with faith, prays, breathes, and says, whatever the result, God is with me. They rest, they carry peace, they find strength for the moment. The report may still come, but the one with faith has been built stronger, while the one with worry has been torn down. Worry is like rocking in a chair. It keeps you moving, but you go nowhere. Faith is like stepping forward. It may be uncertain, but it brings progress. Worry wastes energy. Faith invests it. Worry drains life. Faith fills it. You cannot grow by worry, but you can be destroyed by it. Remember, faith does not mean everything will be easy. No, faith means you keep building even when the storm comes. Faith means you trust the foundation when the winds blow. Worry, however, collapses at the first sign of trouble. Worry does not wait to see the outcome. It destroys you before the outcome even arrives. Think of Abraham, who walked into the unknown simply because God told him to go. That was faith. It built a future. It built a nation. Now imagine if he had spent all his days worrying. What if the journey is too long? What if I never arrive? What if God has forgotten me? His story would have ended before it began. But faith builds. Worry destroys. And what about you? How many moments of your life have been stolen because of worry? How many nights have you lost to restless thoughts that never came true? How many opportunities have passed you by because worry convinced you that you were not ready? Worry builds nothing. It only breaks. Faith, even as small as a mustard seed, can move mountains. When you choose faith over worry, you choose life. You choose to step forward, to believe that even if the road is hard, it leads somewhere good. You choose to trust that God is in control even when you are not. And as you choose faith, piece by piece, your life becomes stronger, fuller, richer. But when you choose worry, your life becomes smaller, darker, more fragile until it collapses under the weight of fear. So remind yourself each day, faith builds, worry destroys. Choose faith, even trembling faith, even imperfect faith. For faith, no matter how small, has the power to create, to grow, to endure. And worry, no matter how convincing, has only the power to destroy. Peace is born in surrender. These words may sound simple, but they hold the secret to freedom. So often we are told that peace comes when we win, when we control, when we achieve, when we fix every problem in our lives. But the truth is, real peace does not come from control. Real peace does not come from trying to hold the world in your hands. Real peace is born when you let go. When you surrender what is too heavy, when you lay down what is not yours to carry, when you say, God, I cannot, but you can. That is the soil where peace grows. Think of the times you have tried to control everything. You planned every detail. You worried about every outcome. You replayed every possibility. Did you find peace there? No. You found exhaustion. You found tension in your body, a heaviness in your spirit, a restlessness in your sleep. That is what control gives, temporary relief at best, endless worry at worst. But the moment you surrender, even if the situation hasn't changed yet, something shifts inside. Your chest loosens, your shoulders relax. Your mind quiets. Why? Because peace is not the result of having everything figured out. Peace is the result of trusting that God is already in the middle of what you cannot control. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a child learning to swim. The water feels big. The fear rises. The arms thrash. The child says, if I don't keep fighting, I will sink. But the teacher whispers, stop struggling. Lean back. Trust the water. Let it hold you. The moment the child surrenders, the body floats. The peace was never in the fight. The peace was in the surrender. That is how life is. You thrash, you struggle, you fight to control, but peace comes when you lean back into the arms of God and trust that He can hold you. Consider the woman who has spent years trying to fix her family's problems. She carries the weight of everyone's decisions. She takes the blame. She worries day and night. But one day she breaks down, falls on her knees, and says, Lord, I give them to you. I cannot fix what only you can heal. In that moment, her circumstances may still be messy, but her soul breathes for the first time in years. That is peace, born not from fixing everything, but from surrendering everything. Or look at the man who works tirelessly, chasing money, chasing respect, chasing approval. Yet no matter how much he earns, no matter how much he achieves, there is no peace. His mind is always racing. What if it's not enough? What if I lose it all? He is running, but he is never resting. One night exhausted, he whispers, God, I place my life, my work, my future in your hands. And for the first time, he sleeps deeply. His bank account did not change, but his heart did. Because peace is born in surrender, we think surrender means weakness. But in truth, surrender is strength. It takes courage to say, I cannot do this alone. It takes wisdom to know what belongs in your hands and what belongs in God's. The strongest people you will ever meet are not those who control everything. They are those who have learned to let go and trust. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Faced with the cross, he prayed, not my will, but yours be done. In that surrender, there was deep anguish, but also a peace that carried him through the darkest hours of his life. His surrender did not mean the absence of pain, but it meant the presence of strength. That is what surrender gives. Peace that sustains, peace that carries, peace that endures. Look around at daily life and you will see it. A mother letting go of her grown child and saying, Lord, guide them better than I ever could. A worker releasing the constant fear of failure and saying, Lord, I will do my best and trust you with the rest. A grieving heart placing their loss into God's hands and saying, Lord, I do not understand, but I will trust you anyway. In each surrender, peace is born. Worry fights, surrender rests. Fear clings, surrender releases. Anxiety imagines every outcome. Surrender trusts that God already holds the outcome. That is why surrender is not defeat. It is the birthplace of victory. For peace cannot grow in soil filled with fear and control. Peace grows where there is space, and surrender creates that space. Think of it like this: you are holding a rope, pulling against a storm. Your hands are burning, your strength is fading, yet you refuse to let go because you believe you must hold it. But when you finally release, when you finally let go, the storm still rages, but you are free. That release, that surrender, opens the door for peace to walk in. So, beloved, ask yourself, what are you holding that is stealing your peace? Is it the fear of tomorrow? Is it the burden of someone else's choices? Is it the desire to control what you were never meant to control? Whatever it is, hear this truth. Peace will not come while you grip it tightly. Peace will come the moment you place it in God's hands. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of God in the middle of them. And the way to invite that presence is through surrender. Say with your whole heart, Lord, I release what I cannot carry. I trust what I cannot see. I place it all in your hands, and you will find that peace, gentle and steady, begins to rise within you. Because peace is not born in control. Peace is not born in worry. Peace is not born in fear. Peace is born in surrender. Letting go is not weakness. It's been said many times in whispers and in sighs that letting go means giving up, that it means surrendering to defeat, that it means walking away in shame. But those who have truly lived, those who have carried burdens too heavy to bear, know the truth. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength. It is not defeat. It is courage. It is not the end. It is often the beginning of freedom. We are taught from an early age to hold on. Hold on to dreams, hold on to relationships, hold on to control, hold on to the image of how life should be. And sometimes holding on is necessary, holding on through storms, holding on through trials, holding on when faith demands perseverance. That is noble. But there comes a time when holding on is no longer strength, it is a chain. There comes a time when letting go is the bravest act of all. Think about a rope burning in your hand. You grip it tighter because you believe to let go would mean losing everything. But the truth is, every second you hold on, the rope cuts deeper. The pain grows stronger. The wound grows larger. Only when you release the rope do you find relief. Letting go does not mean weakness in that moment. It means wisdom. It means valuing your peace over your pride. It means choosing healing over harm. Look at life and you will see this truth again and again. A woman stays in a relationship that has turned cold, where love has withered and only control remains. She tells herself, if I leave, I am weak. If I let go, I am a failure. But in truth, the weakness is in staying where she is diminished. The courage is in letting go and stepping forward. In choosing dignity and hope over fear and captivity. Letting go for her is not a sign of defeat. It is a declaration of worth. Think of a man who has worked at the same job for years, unhappy, unfulfilled, drained of his joy. He clings to it because of fear. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of starting over. He tells himself, I must endure, I cannot let go, I must hold on. Yet the job takes from him more than it gives, and his soul is withering. The moment he gathers courage to let go, to trust that something better is waiting, he finds new opportunities, new energy, new purpose. What looked like weakness was strength hidden in surrender. Even in our hearts, we cling to anger, to resentment, to memories of hurt. We say, if I forgive, I am weak. If I let go of this grudge, I will lose my power. But the truth is the opposite. Holding on to bitterness poisons the heart, weakens the spirit, keeps you trapped in yesterday's pain. The strong one is the one who lets go. The strong one is the one who says, I will not let this define me any longer. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is the boldest freedom. Letting go is also about trust. Imagine carrying a heavy bag of stones on your back. Each stone represents a fear, a regret, a disappointment. You tell yourself, if I drop this bag, I will be unprepared. If I let go, I will be empty. But the truth is, the bag is crushing you. Your steps are slower, your back is breaking, your spirit is weary. The moment you place it down and say, God, this is yours, you rise taller, you walk lighter, you breathe deeper. That is not weakness. That is strength. We often confuse control with strength. We think strength is holding tighter, grasping harder, never releasing. But control is an illusion. You were never meant to control everything life, people, outcomes, seasons. True strength is knowing when to fight and when to release. It is knowing that your worth is not tied to what you cling to, but to the God who holds you. Look at nature. A tree in autumn lets go of its leaves. It does not weep. It does not beg them to stay. It trusts that in letting go, it will not be barren forever. It trusts that spring will come again, that new leaves will grow. If the tree clung to its dead leaves, it would never make space for the new. Letting go is not weakness for the tree. It is wisdom, it is strength, it is the rhythm of life. So it is with you. When you let go of what has died, what has ended, what is no longer serving your growth, you make space for God to bring something new. That is not weakness. That is faith in action. That is courage in practice. Think of Christ on the cross. He let go of his breath. He let go of his life. He let go into the Father's hands. The world may have thought that was defeat, but in truth, it was victory. Through letting go, he rose again. Through letting go, salvation was born. If even the Son of God showed us that letting go leads to greater glory, why should we think it is weakness in us? My friend, hear this clearly. Letting go does not mean you have lost. It means you have chosen to rise. It does not mean you are broken. It means you are wise enough to stop carrying what breaks you. It does not mean you are giving up. It means you are making space for something greater to arrive. So if you are holding on to something that is draining you, remember, letting go is not weakness. It is the doorway to peace, to healing, to freedom. It is the sign of a heart brave enough to trust, a soul strong enough to release, and a spirit ready to soar. Every problem has a season. That simple truth, my friend, is like a gentle breeze after a long storm. When we are standing in the middle of trouble, it feels endless. The night feels like it has no dawn. The winter feels like it will never break into spring. The pain feels like it will never loosen its grip. But life is not still. Life is not frozen. Life moves in seasons. And just as the earth knows how to turn from cold to warmth, from barren to blooming, so too do our problems have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Think about the darkest nights you have lived through. Maybe there was a time when your heart was broken, when you thought you could not face tomorrow. Maybe there was a time when bills piled higher than your hope, when the weight of responsibility pressed down on you so hard you could barely breathe. Maybe there was a time when you felt unseen, unloved, unworthy. In those moments, it seemed like the valley had no exit. But here you are today. You made it through. That moment was a season, not a life sentence. We forget too quickly that even our own lives bear witness to this truth. The heartbreak you thought would kill you, it passed. The shame you thought would mark you forever, it lifted. The loneliness that once sat beside you every night, it softened, it changed, it moved. Why? Because every problem has a season. Nothing lasts forever, not even the darkest storm. Think of the farmer who sows seeds. He knows that winter will come, but he does not panic. He does not cry, "The snow will bury me forever." No, he trusts the rhythm of the earth. He knows spring will break, the ice will melt, the sun will shine again. He prepares, he waits, he endures. The farmer can trust the seasons of the soil. Why can we not trust the seasons of our souls? Many of us overthink because we treat today's problem as if it is forever. We forget that just as joy does not last unchanged, neither does sorrow. We forget that every trial has an expiration date. A mother with a crying newborn feels overwhelmed in the midnight hours. She wonders if sleep will ever return, if peace will ever come. But the baby grows. The nights stretch longer, the cries turn to laughter. That season passes. What once felt unbearable becomes a memory. Sometimes problems are like the heat of summer. Intense, sweltering, pressing on you from all sides. You think you will suffocate, but summer does not last forever. Sometimes problems are like autumn. Things are falling away, changing, shifting, and you feel the ache of loss, but autumn does not last forever. Sometimes problems are like winter. Cold, isolating, harsh. Yet even the longest winter must bow before spring. And spring always comes. Consider the people in your life. You may know someone who lost their job, who thought it was the end of everything. They cried, they worried, they feared. But months later, they found a better opportunity, one they would never have imagined if they had stayed where they were. The problem had its season, and when it ended, something greater was waiting. Or think of illness. The flu lays you down, the fever burns, the weakness drains you. You feel like it will never pass. But slowly, day by day, the body heals. Strength returns. The problem has its season. Even in Scripture, we are reminded to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. There is a time to weep, yes, but there is also a time to laugh. There is a time to mourn, but there is also a time to dance. Problems are not eternal. God alone is eternal. What gives us peace is knowing that seasons are controlled not by our worry, but by God's wisdom. We cannot hurry spring. We cannot push back winter. But we can trust that the seasons will shift right on time. In the same way, we cannot always control when a problem ends, but we can trust that God has already set its limits. The problem cannot last longer than God allows. When you understand this truth, you stop panicking in the middle of trouble. You stop asking, will this be forever? And you start declaring, this too shall pass. That is the anthem of faith, this too shall pass. Heartbreak passes. Fear passes. Confusion passes. Even the deepest pain passes. So my beloved, when you find yourself in the cold of winter, remind yourself that spring is on its way. When you find yourself under storm clouds, remind yourself the sun is not gone, it is only hidden. When you feel like your problem is permanent, whisper to your heart, every problem has a season, and my season of peace is coming. Hold on to that truth like a lantern in the night. Problems are visitors, not permanent residents. They come, they test, they teach, and then they leave. And when they leave, you will be stronger, wiser, and more ready to embrace the joy that follows. So don't fear the season you are in. It is not the end of your story. It is only a chapter. The author has not finished writing yet. And in his timing, the page will turn, and you will see the beauty that was waiting on the other side. Live in the sunlight, not in the shadow. Those words sound simple, almost too simple, but they carry the weight of freedom. Life will always present you with two choices: to stand in the warmth of hope or to hide in the chill of fear, to walk with faith guiding your steps or to crouch in the shadows of doubt. Many of us spend far too long in the shadow, worrying, overthinking, doubting ourselves, doubting God. And yet, sunlight is always available. It is waiting, it is calling. What is sunlight? It is not just the golden rays that stream through your window at dawn. It is the spirit of joy that breaks through your heart when you choose to smile even in struggle. It is the peace that floods your soul when you trust God's hand even when you cannot see his plan. Sunlight is hope, and shadow is fear. Sunlight is gratitude, and shadow is complaint. Sunlight is courage, and shadow is hesitation. Every single day you are given a chance to choose where you will stand. Think about waking up in the morning. Before you even rise from bed, your mind may whisper, this day will be too hard. This problem is too big. I am too tired, too small, too weak. That is shadow. But then there is another voice, quieter but steady, that says, I woke up today. I am alive today. God still has breath in my lungs and purpose in my steps. This day can bring blessings I do not yet see. That is sunlight. Which voice will you follow? Look around you and see the difference. There are people who live constantly in the shadow. They dwell on the past, rehearse their failures, keep reminding themselves of their wounds. You see them and their faces are heavy, their eyes dim. They cannot laugh easily. They cannot see beauty, even when it stands right in front of them. They live as if the world has ended, though life is still offering them new beginnings. That is the power of shadow. It blinds you, not just to God's light, but to your own potential. Then there are those who choose sunlight. You know them. They smile even when they could frown. They give thanks for small things, a meal, a conversation, a breath. They carry problems too, but they refuse to let problems carry them. You sit with them, and their presence feels warm, like sunlight falling on your face after a long night. They remind you that joy is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of light. Living in the sunlight does not mean denying reality. It does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means deciding that problems will not have the final word. For example, think of a student who fails an exam. The shadow says, you are stupid, you are worthless, you will never succeed. If the student stays in that shadow, they will stop trying, stop believing, stop moving. But the sunlight says, this was one moment. It does not define you. Learn, grow, prepare, and rise. If the student chooses sunlight, they find strength to keep going, and often they discover success beyond their first failure. Think about grief. When we lose someone we love, the shadow whispers, you will never heal. Your life has ended with their departure. And in the first days of mourning, that shadow feels heavy, almost suffocating. But sunlight is still present, even in grief. Sunlight says, cry yes, feel yes. But remember, love does not end with death. Their memory can still bring warmth. Your life is still worth living. To live in sunlight in grief is not to ignore the pain, but to allow love to shine brighter than loss. Or consider someone who dreams of starting a business, writing a book, pursuing a calling. The shadow says, what if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you lose everything? And many people live their entire lives in that shadow, never taking a step, never testing their wings. But sunlight says, what if you succeed? What if you inspire? What if this step opens the door to the life you were born for? Those who live in the sunlight take risks, and even if they stumble, they discover lessons that shadows could never teach. God himself has shown us this truth. Every morning he brings back the sun. After every night, after every storm, after every darkness, the sun rises. It is his reminder that shadow is temporary and light is eternal. If the Creator has built this promise into the rhythm of the universe, should we not also build it into the rhythm of our lives? Living in sunlight requires practice. It requires choosing gratitude when complaint comes easier. It requires choosing trust when fear feels louder. It requires choosing hope when despair is heavy. But every time you choose sunlight, you strengthen your spirit. Every time you choose sunlight, you push the shadow back a little further. The truth is, shadows will always exist. Doubt, fear, worry, they do not vanish completely. But shadows only exist because light is present. You cannot have a shadow without a light. That means even when shadows surround you, the light is still there. You simply need to turn toward it. So, my beloved, do not spend your life crouched in shadow when you were born to stand in sunlight. Do not let fear write your story when faith is waiting to guide your pen. Do not live as if the darkness is stronger than the dawn. Stand tall, lift your face, open your heart. Let God's sunlight warm you, guide you, heal you. Live in the sunlight, not in the shadow, for in the sunlight you will find peace, you will find purpose, and you will find that even in the hardest of days, you are still surrounded by light. So my dear ones, if tonight you find yourself pacing, worrying, rehearsing old fears, close your eyes, breathe deep, whisper this truth. It is not mine to carry, it is God's stars. And when you rise tomorrow morning, rise lighter, rise freer, rise ready to live. Because when you stop overthinking, when you let God handle it, you, my dear, you become unstoppable.